Serena Williams is the greatest woman tennis has ever seen. And God, what an absolute lady boss she is. Although her career's coming to an end, there's a legacy that woman is leaving behind for generations of African women to come. Serena has shown the world more than just how to play excellent tennis. She's leaving behind million-dollar lessons. And those are exactly what we'll be getting into in this video. Up first, public investment in sports pays off. Growing up, Serena was not privileged. In fact, what served as the foundation of her success was an outdated tennis court used for public play in her neighborhood. When her father recognized his daughter's promise in tennis, he gathered resources from wherever he could to train them. Today, when Serena talks, she makes sure to bring this up because it's so important to understand how there was no funding available to nurture her talent, not even a proper place to practice her game in. Today, so many talented young African girls continue to face the same problem of lack of public investment in women's sports, and it gets in the way of their success. Back in Africa, where Serena comes from, public parks are being transformed into business buildings and residences through land grabbing, which reduces the amount of space available for recreation and sports. Second, because users must pay to utilize these facilities, the privatization of sporting venues restricts public access. Thirdly, there's little to no investment in sports facilities due to underfunding of public schools. As a result, most young Africans are excluded from sporting possibilities due to class disparity, particularly in environments where athletics are not seen as a viable career path. African governments need to spend more on public sports facilities and programs aimed towards girls. And so, the first lesson Serena has for sportswomen in Africa is to encourage public investment in sports, as it definitely pays off. Now for the second lesson: eradicate racism from sports. Let's not forget that Serena was an anomaly in a field that was previously dominated by white women and men, and perhaps that's among the biggest reasons why she's so important to the world of tennis. Because of the racial and gender issues that have defined Serena's treatment in the sport, her iconic status as a tennis great has taken on a new hue. She has faced criticism for her masculinity, aggression, and playing strength. These are generalized racialized stereotypes that associate black people with barbarism and white people with advanced humanity. We observed the usage of historically racialized stereotypes of the angry black woman and animalistic caricatures in the visual and vocal depictions of Serena in the public media. By doing this, it was intended to limit her skills. It was basically psychological warfare aimed at bringing her down. In fact, anti-black racism in sports has been the focus of many investigations, and according to one survey, the players who were most frequently attacked during the Euro 2020 championship final stage were black football players who missed penalties. These experiences in Serena's life lie at the center of gender and ethnicity. All women suffer sexism in some way, whether it's salary differences or a general disregard for women's sports in comparison to men's. Serena Williams and other foreign athletes, like South African sprinting champion Caster Semenya, face a challenge that has both race and gender at its heart. However, Serena was not one to swallow the disrespect. She made a bold decision. She boycotted events, including the BNP Paribas Open in California, due to racial epithets from the audience. The race issue in sports is a symptom of a larger issue that's made obvious by online harassment, fan behavior, and general sports management. A structural reckoning that confronts how racial and gender inequities are ingrained in the DNA of professional sport will be necessary to address the anti-black aspect of racism faced by Serena, as opposed to increasing the representation of black women in sports. Moving on, the topic of mental health in women's sports must be brought up. The issue of mental health has received attention as a result of sexism and racism in competitive sports, and the high public scrutiny that goes along with it. We're already watching a generation of younger athletes, such as US gymnastics champion Simone Biles and Japanese tennis star Naomi Osaka, taking a stance. At times, they've made the decision to put their mental health ahead of competing in stressful events. The opportunity for a tennis star like Osaka to speak out was made possible in large part because of Serena Williams. These daring acts take place in a setting where talking about one's mental health is seen as a sign of weakness. They draw attention to a neglected aspect of sports, namely the requirement for a comprehensive healthcare system to sustain the high-pressure atmosphere of top sports. The story of Conjestina Achieng, a middleweight boxer from Kenya who was the first African woman to hold an international boxing title, serves as an example. A larger public health system failed Achieng, diagnosing her with a mental disorder while not being equipped with specialized staff for the job. The restricted options available to sportsmen in developing nations highlight how privatization is destroying public health systems. For instance, poor public health care in Kenya is a result of policies that continue to support historical injustice, while disguising themselves as public-private partnerships. Lastly, sportswomen deserve a more secure future. Serena Ventures, a venture capital firm established to help her with her financial exit from the tennis world. When there are significant economic inequalities, the financial security that comes from years of sporting achievement does not apply in the same manner. What must be altered is evident from Serena's context. In addition to the demands of competitive sport, female athletes in Kenya must also cope with the secrecy around intimate partner abuse in the sporting community, which was brought to light by the murders of athletes Agnes Tirop and Damaris Muthi. These are three connected problems. The first is that throughout their careers, athletes lack sound financial guidance and support. The massive societal inequities that put unfair pressure on young athletes who become wealthy to assist their families financially are the second factor. Last but not least, the intersection of class and gender requires that sports organizations take femicide and intimate partner violence as seriously as they do anti-doping programs. Serena Williams' path to success sheds light on the detrimental effects of race, gender, and class in society at large and in sports especially. African countries must pay attention to the structural changes needed in their sports industry. Now on to other news. First up, Venus and Serena Williams withdraw from the 2022 US Open. Serena Williams frequently claims that she wouldn't exist without Venus. It's so appropriate that they exited in the doubles on Thursday night in the same way they entered more than 20 years ago, as a team. The Williams sisters showed us that this was truly their final tournament together. They'll appear in sports, business, health, fitness, and fashion magazines when they formally retire. The Williams sisters are not only athletes. They've destroyed records, disregarded conventions, and smashed barriers to the extent that there's nothing left for protégés like Coco Gauff and Naomi Osaka. Up next, Serena Williams' daughter Olympia basks in the US Open spotlight. On Monday night, Serena Williams brought the power to the US Open, but it was someone else who upped the cuteness factor. Olympia Ohanian, who is Alexis Olympia Ohanian Jr., upstaged a star-studded crowd with beaded braids that were a heartfelt homage to her mother's first of 6 US Open victories in 1999, and provided her own entertainment as soon as she stepped foot in Arthur Ashe Stadium. She took pictures and talked to her dad while donning glittering clothing similar to her mother's, while Williams took care of business by defeating Danka Kovanic in the first round in straight sets. Finally, Serena Williams' interview on leaving tennis. Greatness is something she knows well. Here's everything she went over in her recent interview. Serena started with winning more major tennis titles than any other player, male or female, during the Open era, which began in 1968 when professionals were allowed to compete in Grand Slam tournaments. After turning 30, when the majority of athletes retire or see their ranks fall, Williams won 10 of the 23 championships. Williams is nonetheless the most skilled athlete of the 21st century, period. Regardless of what she's achieved on the court or off, she and her older sister Venus took control of a country club sport that was genetically engineered to be hostile to two black sisters from Compton, California. By radiating force and passion and bringing her whole self to her hard court office, she contributed to changing behavioral norms for female athletes and therefore for women in all workplaces. She revised the body image book. She increased the number of photo sessions and flexes when pundits, bigots, and a large number of idiots disparaged her physical appearance or laughed her off as masculine. That's a wrap for this video. Which lesson from Serena do you think holds the most weight? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.